very cool. I'm sort of stumped. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the work we did with Davy Jones. I don't know if I've got some footage there. When we photographed Bill Nye's performance for Davy Jones, we were in pursuit of a performance reference that could be translated to the CG character. Things that were important were that he was on set and he was interacting with the actors and the environment. We did use motion capture and we applied it for gross movement and body movements and tracking, but it's not a program that's capturing the compression in his eyes and his jowl movement. It was keyframe animation. And this work was split screen against his performance constantly. So it was an animator's craft inspired by the actor's performance. And it's a painstaking process. And ultimately, we're translating a human performance into an inhuman form. And I think we're going to see more and more of that in what we do. Driving something inorganic with an organic start. But choices are made. You're looking at his jowls, you're looking at his jawline. In his performance, he has no jaw, he has a beard. So, how do you convey those same attitudes? And we're constantly making choices. Character design in the digital realm is evolved to a point where we can do almost anything, but as we were discussing earlier, just because we can make something exactly as we imagined it does not mean we should. I'm interested in a character design with a lean toward a more nuanced performance, not necessarily realistic in design, but rather real in emotion. I often tell my animators, anyone can make a cat talk, but can you make a cat believe that Fredo has betrayed him? Can we see that realization? And that's a level of nuance that lies outside the traditional forms of animation. Computers are a wonderful tool, but yet we often use it to execute a kind of clinical perfection. I personally believe that when the process becomes sterile, we must fabricate anomaly. And when it comes to an animated performance, to bringing the design construct to life, I see the actors and animators merging in one collaboration. I want to retain the accidents and the flaws. I'm eager to explore the digital realm, but I constantly ask myself, why abandon the techniques that we've developed over the years simply because I'm entering a different medium? I want to take the best of both of these worlds and to kind of orchestrate the chaos. I lost my place. On an animated feature that I'm working on now, we're going to record all the actors live in one room together. We'll block and shoot the scenes as a reference only, utilizing simple props and wardrobe to create a vibrant scenario while recording the audio. If an actor is unavailable for those dates, they're not going to be in the movie. All right, so this is a kind of decision or a choice that's being made. And right or wrong, it's more important to me to retain a process that is alive than one that is executed exactly as I may have imagined it. In a broader sense, in terms of storytelling, we utilize the process of rewriting and editing insatiably, but the anomaly only survives with a willingness to preserve it against an accumulation of data. And committees and even audience testing, if given too much weight, often lead to a sort of homogenization of voice. I think that audiences, if asked, will point out flaws, yet they simultaneously desire a story that has intention and kind of singularity of voice. They don't really want processed cheese, but if you apply the opinions of a large sample group, inevitably that's what you end up with. So for me, I don't want to remove the offensive parts, the pimples, the flaws, everything that I was in pursuit of in the first place. Now, obviously, a good skeletal structure allows you to retain all those flaws. So there's sort of two different things going on, kind of a bones of a story and then sort of execution. But on some level, the issue, kind of ultimately resolves itself in the artist's willingness to offend. I think you have to offend somebody. You have to, be willing to kind of piss a few people off. I don't know how else to do it. I don't ignore the data, but I try to work on a project until I say I like that, and not what do you think. I think. Then I pray that there's enough people out there that are like me, and then I can remain to be employed. There are many choices that we make in terms of design. I reach for visual effects liberally when telling a story, if it is appropriate, but I don't want to do something simply because it is possible. I want to do it ideally because I have something to say. And it's interesting that we're here to discuss this sort of value of kind of lo-fi and hi-fi executions in terms of how they affect the audience's experience. You know, John and I talked about, are we at a threshold? I think technology personally will continue to evolve, and yet there's a kind of seemingly infinite sense of headroom right now in terms of hyperreality that we're experiencing today, and it does pose an interesting dilemma. And for me, that's like, what is the audience's saturation point for spectacle, for instance? How one executes a particular narrative ultimately is comprised of stylistic choices, and yet style has a consequence. Numbing an audience with the latest technology is a self-defeating exercise. We remain at the place where we started, which is what do we have to say? And when I talk about character, it inevitably leads to a narrative discussion, but it doesn't mean that all story is character. I'm particularly interested in what Evan was showing us earlier. Environment can be story as well, and I think, a simple door at the end of a staircase, for example, it wants to be investigated. It's sort of, we're compelled towards it. And in film, we often prey upon the audience's motivation to discover. But when the protagonist is the audience, as in gaming, the design of the environment becomes narrative. I think that that hand on the back that you feel when you watch a film that's being told to you with confidence, or that breadcrumb trail that invites you toward, invites you forward, these are the feelings that need to be present in shepherding the experience within all forms of entertainment. Technology does not allow us to abandon this need. It forces us to discover new ways to create the same outcome. In an online game, a massive multiplayer, for example, the possibilities for the player to appear, the possibilities for the player appear to be infinite, yet one needs to be aware of the what's called the brown problem. There are so many choices, so many colors. How do you prevent them from becoming brown? And the environment needs to guide you, to guide the experience into areas of conflict and dramaturgically sound engagement in order for the player to be entertained. It's not enough simply to build a world and turn it over to an audience. The very design of that world needs to have intention. I believe that across many art forms, experiences are shaped in different ways, but the skill set of storytelling remains somewhat the same, even when conveying something pure and truthful. By building the vehicle to deliver that idea, we remain in the business of audience manipulation. So today, whether it's a puppet, an actor, an avatar, architectural construct, characters and story are symbiotically coexisting, and execution techniques have expanded the possibility of how we tell a story. And yes, maybe we're limited only by our imagination, but something else, I think, remains, and it's the idea that, what is the effective experience for the audience? And the how does not eliminate the why. I look forward to discussing the achievements and pitfalls of design, both in terms of character and environment, with these guys. Thanks.
Let's give everybody a hand here.